first home game of the season. A game I'm actually very positive for, even though we lost obviously to Leeds. And let me explain why. Now, after the Leeds game, obviously we needed signings and we lost, fine, whatever. But I said in that video I did, I thought we were actually pretty good against Leeds. And I thought the back four showed positive signs. Better than I actually kind of thought, to be honest. And I had a few people reply to me on Twitter and say like they strongly disagreed and thought the back four didn't work and the signs weren't positive. And I kind of just want to explain why I felt that was the case and why I'm quite confident about Fulham. Now, Leeds is a typical away game. They press a lot. And it was the first game in the back four. There was always going to be teething issues. But ultimately, in a game away from home, where I think everyone would admit it didn't always click and that wasn't a free-flowing performance, we still averaged 15 shots. Or we still had 15 shots in that game. 6 of them were on target. That's a pretty good percentage. That's 40%. That's a pretty good percentage of your shots on target. And I think, by the way, for context, we averaged 10 shots per 90 last season. 10. Fucking 10. So in a game where, you know, we barely had anyone on the bench, we had an unfit Hwang up front, it wasn't really clicking all the time. We were away from home in a pretty hostile crowd. Jose Sá made an error. We still had 15 shots. For me, that's a really positive sign. I'm not saying they were all perfect, whatever, but we were getting decent areas and creating shots. We averaged 61% possession away from home. You know, I think we were averaging 52% or 51% possession last season. That's off the top of my head, but it was around that figure. So away from home against a pretty decent Leeds side. And by the way, obviously we scored first, so we sat back a little bit, and we still averaged 61% possession in that game. So I think we had more of the ball, and we had more shots when we had it. And Leeds pressed us a lot. Like it's not, that doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean? Like we had 88 passes under pressure. By the way, for context, Leeds had 25. That's how little we pressed them. So I think considering the opponent and how much they pressed us in a new system, a very young back four, I think we handled it really well. We had more of the ball and we had a good amount of shots. And considering we were away from home and it wasn't always clicking, I think that's really positive signs. When it does click and we're at home, we're probably going to have more possession than that and probably going to have more shots. Again, I know it's one game, it's one early, but I think there's a lot of positive signs. So going into this Fulham game, where Fulham, let's be honest, are probably a worse side than Leeds, I'd be positive. This is the lineup I'd go with. And by the way, with Fulham, I think we're playing them at the right time. I know I said this about Leeds and we lost, but whatever. But I think the thing is with Fulham is I think if they lost to Liverpool like everyone expected them to and they got smacked up 5-0, which probably everyone was betting on and putting Salah in their fantasy side and whatever, I think Fulham would have come into this game and sat back and taken a point. However, considering they took a point against Liverpool really good, I think they'll be a bit more open and probably a bit more positive, and I think that's a good thing. Like, you don't really want to play a low block side at home. You kind of want them to come at you a bit. And also Fulham, obviously because of how good they were against Liverpool, they can't drop Marek Rodak, they can't drop Tim Ream, and they can't drop Kenny Tete. And don't worry, all those players were good against Liverpool, but they signed Bernd Leno. He's a better goalkeeper than Marek Rodak. They've signed Issa Diop. He's a better centre-back than Tim Ream. They've signed Kevin Mbabu. He's a better right-back than Kenny Tete. But those guys aren't bedded in yet. And he's not going to drop them away from home when they've just had a good performance against Liverpool. So we're probably playing the weakest version of Fulham's defence they'll have for the rest of the season, because Bernd Leno will come in, Kenny Tete will come in, and Issa Diop will come in. So we're playing against a weaker version of what Fulham will look like at the end of the season. And also, Mitrovic is their best player. And I'm backing Kilman and Collins to handle him better than Connor Cody would. I'm not insulting Connor Cody, by the way, but also he struggles against that type of striker. I'll back Collins and Kilman to do that. And I back us to win this game. And look, against Leeds as well, I thought we were pretty good, as I've already spoke about. And we had 3 players in Aït-Nouri, Johnny and Sarr have awful games. And we were still pretty close. It was still an even game. I think people were going in a bit on Aït-Nouri and Sarr a bit too much. Like, I saw someone on Twitter say, like, Aït-Nouri can't defend, or when Johnny's back, when Semedo's back, just drop him. And I don't get that. Like, yeah, he had a bad game, but I think people forget Aït-Nouri's still 21. He's still very young. I know he's been around for a while. He's still very young. He's like younger than Morgan Gibbs-White. You know what I mean? Like, I think people need to cut him some slack. And Leeds did press a lot, like I already spoke about. So it's harder for a fullback, especially when we're still learning the shape. So I wouldn't go in on too much on Aït-Nouri. I think he'll thrive more in this game. And Jose Sá, I think, obviously he overperformed his XG massively last season. Right now, after game week 1, he's on minus 1.6 post-shot XG. And he was on plus 9.7 before, so it's already a bit of a swing so far. But I think people are forgetting with Jose Sá, he missed all of pre-season, bar the Sporting game. Jackson Smith was in goal for the whole thing. And I think he only came into training the last week, didn't he? So he's only had 2 weeks of training. It's away from home, it's a raucous crowd. I wouldn't go in on Sá too much. And Johnny was just off it. It was weird. Johnny doesn't do that very often, so that probably won't happen again. I assume Jose Sá's not going to be as chaotic, and I think Aït-Nouri will be better because we won't get pressed as much. And I thought Kilman and Collins were really good. when Connor Cody got loaned out, you kept hearing this narrative. The amount of like the Yadars that were like, "Oh, you can't loan him out after that Leeds game." Kilman and Collins were fucking great. If they were as shit as Johnny and Aiden, we would have lost that game 4-1. You know what I mean? I thought Collins and Kilman were great in that game. I thought Kilman was a bit shaky in the first 5-10 minutes, but apart from that, I thought he was fine. Obviously, if Dramatino's back, you play Dramatino. I don't know if he will be back. I haven't seen the press conference yet because it hasn't happened. So I assume Dramatino will be back, but if he's not, Tendonker's fine, I guess. I'm not a big. Maybe I was harsh on Tendonker in my match reaction. I thought he was crap. Like I've been listening to some podcasts and some other like Wolves creators and stuff, and everyone's been praising him and saying how great he was. So maybe I'm just delusional and hate Tendonker or something. But I thought he was crap. But if Moutinho's back, you play Moutinho, and then for me, you have to bring Guedes in. Like, I don't really know what the plan is for Guedes. Like, I'm really happy with the Guedes signing. I think it's a good signing. It's the right signing, but I don't really know where he plays. Like, if we play this 4-2-3-1, he's never really been an out-and-out 9. I know he played there a bit there last season, but he's always been kind of a second striker. So, do they plan him to have him as a 10? He's played left wing the majority of his career, but Pedro Neto seems to have that left wing spot locked off. And he's only really ever played on the right for the Nations League, but then that's where Morgan Gibbs White's had. By the way, if we do, I would play this 11. I don't like Morgan Gibbs White out on the right, because I think Daniel Podence is really good as a 10. I think Morgan Gibbs White's really good as a 10. However, I think I'd trust Daniel Podence to be out wide more than I'd trust Morgan Gibbs White to be out wide, if that makes sense. I'd just stick Guedes up front personally. I don't think this will happen, by the way. Guedes will 100% be on the bench. I'd be stunned if Guedes started, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I hope he does start. And by the way, this isn't me having a dig at Hwang. I thought if Hwang's fit, I'd start him. If Hwang was fit and up to match sharpness, I thought he was our best player in the first half, especially in the attack. I thought he was really good. It was probably his best half I've seen since Newcastle at home. He was really good. And I criticise Hwang a lot. People think I have some anti-Hwang agenda or something. I thought he was great, so I wouldn't drop him if I had to. But he's clearly not fit, and I'd rather have him coming off the bench with he can only play probably in half. So I'd rather have him coming off the bench the last 20 than Guedes. I want to see Guedes, you know what I mean? And I think Fulham at home is a pretty decent game as your first one. You don't want to be Spurs away as your first game. You'd rather be at home in front of the crowd against a side that probably playing a bit deeper. But yeah, I think obviously Fulham are a good side. There is concerns there with Mitrovic, but they don't really scare. The only thing is Polinia. Like, you can just see Polinia scoring, can't you? But I really hope Polinia doesn't have a good game, so I'm never going to hear the end of it. The amount of arguments I had on Twitter over the summer, like saying why we shouldn't have bought Polinia. If he has a great game, I'm going to get so many tweets. But whatever. So yeah, I'm pretty confident. I think we'll win this game, to be honest. I know I said that against Leeds, but whatever. I thought we were good against Leeds, considering it was our first game and it was away from home. We got pressed a lot, and it's a hard place to go. I thought we handled it pretty well. With Guedes in, I assume Moutinho will be back. Even if he's not, we'll probably have Hwang or Guedes on the bench. Or at least it'll be something to bring off the bench. Aït-Nouri and Sarr can't be as bad, and Johnny can't be as bad as they were last week. I just think if those three are competent, Fulham are probably a lot worse than Leeds, and we're at home. I'd be very surprised if we didn't at least draw this game. And I think we will. I think we'll win it 2-0 or something. I'd be very surprised if we lost this game. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and yeah, peace.